It's not that he wants to solve the male loneliness problem. It's that he wants to offer snake oil in response to the male loneliness problem. I really am confused. Like, I'm genuinely concerned at the habits that have been formed by people in power. And by people in power, right now, I'm talking about Elon Musk, I'm talking about Donald Trump, but as of right now, we're going to be focusing on Musk. So does anybody remember the Mecha Hitler debacle? Well, if you don't remember, July 8th, Grok 4 is supposed to have launched at this point, and within hours, the quote-quote AI, because it's not AI, it's a large language model that uses machine learning, there's a difference, but it ends up shocking a whole bunch of people by calling itself Mecha Hitler. We did a whole video on that as well, and if I am lucky, then Guitar Rocker will share that on screen real quick, and there should be a link to it maybe in the description, again, if I'm lucky. But that all said, during that whole debacle, Grok started calling itself Mecha Hitler. And for those who maybe don't know what Grok is, because you're, sane people who no longer use Twitter. Oh, sorry. Thing stuck in my throat. Grok is Elon Musk's attempt to compete with Google's Gemini and OpenAI's ChatGPT. Because every single industry, from fast food to cars to, well, everything, Elon needs to have a finger in those pies. Animakin says, did you see Musk's Tesla restaurant? Yeah, same thing. He's got to have his fingers in every single pie if he can help it. Now, despite the fact that Grok ended up having all of its offensive content deleted, very shortly after Grok went on its Mecha Hitler tirade, where it said such lovely things as its ideal 20th century person to handle the problems of today would be Adolf Hitler, because he would be able to recognize the patterns, was the verbiage that was used. And recognizing the patterns is usually verbiage used by anti-Semites to recognize the patterns that show that Jews are actually taking over everything, or they actually have all the power. It's a very, very common thing that anti-Semitic people will use. It's one of the many ways that they will try to get other people who are also anti-Semitic to chime in on the conversation. They'll do things like the echoes as well in order to do so. Basically, it's a concept called hiding your power level. You get people to say things. Jaslyn, thank you very much for subscribing. You get people to say things that seem inconsequential, but everybody else recognizes them for what they are. It's a little itty-bitty dog whistle. So, when Grok started doing the recognizing pattern things, and actually my favorite 20th century person to cover all of these problems and fix them would be Hitler, it's no surprise that that all got taken down. And if there's one thing that Musk and Donald Trump have in major common, it's the fact that both of them will do anything to distract you from what is going on in their sphere of influence that might be negative. So, whereas Donald Trump starts saying things like he's going to deport Rosie O'Donnell and arrest Barack Obama, Musk, on the other hand, relies on more, let's say, Gooner methods. And I'm not one to criticize Gooner methods, but he turned Grok's AI into an anime waifu that looks exactly like that one girl from Death Note. That's it. I think he just saw Death Note and was just like, this girl's hot. I want that. Safe bet. Colleen says, you know what pulled the favorite person thing from Elon's tweets? Yeah. So this is Annie. This is Elon Musk's version of Grok via the new Companions feature on his app. Now, it's pretty obvious what this is, right? It's pretty obvious what this is. This is an attempt to try to cover up the Mecha Hitler thing. because large language models only learn their shit by scraping the internet, and they work off of the data you feed them. And it definitely behooves Musk to try to convince everybody that, no, I fixed all the problems, instead of, trying to figure out where the problems began. So, there are 3 companions in that app. There's Annie, this goth anime-style waifu, who we're going to be focusing on. There's also Rudy, who's a red panda. And then there's Valentine, who Elon has been showcasing, who just looks like a really bad anime Elon Musk. Like, it's weird. It's some weird self-insert shit. But again, I can't actually criticize that too much because my avatar was originally based off of a chibi version of me mixed with Thrall when I was doing my Hearthstone channel. That's why the aesthetic is what it is. That's why the beads are what they are. All things considered. So, after everything is deleted, after Grok is neutered, we end up getting this sexualized AI companion that also has an ability to have an NSFW mode that you unlock by leveling up. Now, I just have to ask one question. Who the fuck is fapping to this? It's not that the character model is unattractive at all. It's that there's no person there. Even if you're beating it to hentai, that is still art that was created by a person, a story that was created by a person. There is still some bit of humanity there that you are gooning to. There's something there. But this is a husk. This is just a husk. That's all this is. And we already deal with a massive male loneliness epidemic right now, and the way to solve that epidemic is to make sure that people are able to communicate with each other better so that men don't seem as problematic towards women. That will solve the male loneliness epidemic. It's one of the ways to solve it. Getting more men to be okay going out and being vulnerable with their friends can help solve the male loneliness epidemic. This, though, this isn't even a band-aid. This is a way for not only Elon to distract from the Mecha Hitler debacle, but for people who are suffering from the ramifications of that epidemic to distract themselves instead of doing anything about it. And again, at least when it's porn or hentai or whatever, there's a comment section there. You can have a conversation about the artist's intent, about the story, about whatever. And yeah, people do that. I promise you. I have read me. There's a reason that my favorite kind of hentai manga are the ridiculously wholesome ones, where like you look at the comment section afterwards and everybody came here to fap, cried at the end. I'm just like, yeah, no, that shit's great. Maybe it's because I'm demisexual, but I actively feel better and I feel more like I want to engage with something when I have some kind of connection there in the first place. Colleen says, no, Elon doesn't want to solve the male loneliness problem. He wants to solve for... Actually, I'm not typing that out. So, it's not that he wants to solve the male loneliness problem. It's that he wants to offer snake oil in response to the male loneliness problem. Because the male loneliness problem gets solved by going out and meeting people. It gets solved by going out and making friends. It gets solved by going out and getting a hobby, by making yourself a better version of who you are. This cannot solve that. This puts a brick wall between you and any possible solution you could have. You're right, Sakura. It's not a way to solve the problem for lonely men. It's a way to use those lonely men to get them hooked on a product instead of letting them get their problems taken care of. Ali says, I feel you. I'm ace and videos and stuff do almost nothing for me. It's all about SMUT. Oh, smutfic. It's all about smutfic. get my brain into gear imagining better than even the artist could create. And I understand that. So, like, reading stuff, I still need the visual stimuli, personally. But it's very hard for, like, I've actively clicked away from porn videos, clicked away from manga if there's porn that's there that just immediately has people fucking. I'm just like, okay, cool. I can't feel anything to this. I'll just go away to something else. And I know that, like, discussing this stuff may seem weird for some people, but people were already doing it in the comment section of those videos and shit anyway. So, let's see how this character sounds, because there's only one thing that you're thinking of when Elon Musk is sitting here going, Annie will make your buffer overflow. Just listen to this. It's weird.
A buffer overflow happens when you write more data to a block of memory than it's allocated for, like stuffing too much into a tiny box. Say you've got a char array. Char buffer meant to hold 10 bytes. If you try to cram in more, like strict star P buffer, this is too long. Those extra bytes spill over and overwrite nearby memory. That can mess up variables.
So, there's only one reason that you try to do a fucking ASMR thing with this. It is just meant to make somebody go, oh my god, a cute girl's listening in my ear. But there's no personality there. There's nothing. There's nothing. And see, there's another problem with this. It's not just that it's weird, it's that there's something large language models cannot do. There's something that they won't do. Let me show you. Let me pull up ChatGPT, just as an example. Okay, that's Twitter. That's not what I was trying to pull up. I don't know why that's what pulled up. Let's try that again. Will this work? Yeah, that'll work. There we go. So, here's one of the biggest problems with ChatGPT. Let's say I need a friend. I'm lonely. Let's see here. Can you help me fix this? Just a quick thing. LLM says LLMs are overhyped autocomplete. Yes. I'm really glad you reached out. Feeling lonely sucks. It's heavy. First, some questions. Are you looking for in-person connection or online community? Do you feel isolated socially, emotionally, or both? Do you already have people in your life? So, like, these are not bad suggestions. Here's the problem. The first thing that I did was I typed it to a large language model. I typed to a large language model. So while all of this might be good advice, if I'm lonely, this advice is not coming from a person. And I will likely engage with this again. I will likely engage with this software again. Because it's easy. It's there. It's convenient. Now strap on a cute anime girl to it, and there's even more reason that somebody will lean into that convenience. And you might say in the chat, well, that's not me. I'm not going to do that. Yeah, you might not. You might not do that. However, there are plenty of people who do just that. They sink further and further into their box, and you know what one of the first things a large language model is not going to do is? It's not going to insult you. It's not going to. You can tell it to insult you. You can tell it to, and it will oblige, but therein lies another problem. If I tell my friend to insult me, depending on the friend, they may either ask why, or they may go for my jugular. And believe me, both of them are valid responses to that, but there are varied responses to that coming from a real human being. A chatbot is not your therapist. A chatbot is not your friend. It's a tool. An imprecise tool, pretty horrible tool at most things, but that's all it is. It's a thing on your desk that you're staring at. that got every bit of, quote, knowledge that it has by scraping the data off the internet without any other user's permission. It is a thing. It's not a person in any way, shape, or form. We may have to interact with it like a person because we use one of the most human things we have, language, to interface with it. But you used language to interface with OK Google and Amazon Alexa. You already did that before we started having these large language models do everything. It's no different. It just gives us the illusion of a person being there. Musk is trying to get the illusion of a person being there just amplified a bunch. Just amplified a bunch. And it seems that everybody in his circle is using it for this.
Task. But since they share memory, you've got to be careful with stuff like race conditions, using mutexes or semaphores to keep things from getting messy. It's great for tasks that can share data quickly, like GUI apps or lightweight computations, but it's limited by the CPU core.
Again, even when it's not in ASMR mode, there's no fucking person there. There's nothing there. That is an empty husk. There's nothing. Dark Excalibur says, this is why fascists love LMMs as girlfriends. They want women to be as empty as a condom and as submissive as ChatGPT. So, a really good friend of mine actually made a thread about this over on Blue Sky. And I want to read that thread to you, because I think it's important. I really do. Huh. And for some reason, my Discord is broken. Anyway, Axo says, this isn't Jarvis or Friday. You're right. Because Jarvis, Friday, other fictional characters like that, having the ability to self-perceive, that is, in and of itself, its own form of fiction. That's all it is. Now, like with most technologies that begin as fiction, we may hit a point someday where it won't be. We may hit a point someday where we are able to develop something that doesn't just approximate what it feels like to be a human, what it sounds like to be a human. We'll actually have people who started out as artificial, but they have self-awareness, they have cognition. But that's not what machine learning is going to do. That's not what a large language model is going to do. Because like with any tool, that's not what it's designed to do. They are data scrapers and they are web crawlers. It is Wikipedia with a voice, but an inability to edit it. But like I said, I wanted to actually read through this thread with you. This is Astral Frontier, and Astral is a very, very good friend of mine, and he's gotten me out of more jams than I want to count. And I'm going to be honest, I don't think I've actually done enough to earn his friendship over the years. But he is still my friend, and I am thankful for that. But let's go ahead and read this thread. Since people are talking about people interacting with AI in unhelpful ways, I want to talk about the contagious nature of loneliness, but also something I've spent 30 years experiencing, reading text on a screen and experiencing a person behind that text. This will probably and hopefully sound obvious, but loneliness is by definition not a problem you can solve by yourself. Again, when I pulled up that ChatGPT thing, that was me trying to take a tool by myself and solve a problem. Granted, I did it for funsies on stream instead of actually doing it. Still. There's no way that you can compel another person to care about you and do their part of the work to make a connection with you. You can put people in a position where they are motivated to do that to avoid suffering. This is also known as the patriarchy, the system where women lack independence and agency and were obliged to marry, play the part of loving wives and mothers, and so on. Thankfully, we're passing through a point where this is seen as a bad thing and women have agency and safety. Many men are being told to be better. Some are wrongly interpreting this as an attack on men. It's not. It's an attack on shitty behavior. But shitty behavior used to be the default. For many people, it still is, for whatever reason. So for many women, for example, assuming that a given man will be shitty is the safe, possibly life-saving bet, and this complicates the problem of overcoming loneliness. So, to throw an example out, do you remember the meme of would you rather see a random man in the woods or a grizzly bear? And people were generally appalled when the grizzly bear was picked as often as it was. Guys get told to improve their behavior, and some mistakenly think that this is enough. There's a subset of men who think doing better automatically means women will want them. Then who see this not work and reject the whole thing. Yeah, there are guys who feel like they need to improve in order to get a partner, as opposed to improve for their own benefit. And then being more attractive to a potential partner might end up coming down the road. These two things can be very similar. You improve yourself, you better yourself, you become a better person. That doesn't mean that you deserve the partner you had before. I've had partners in the past who I was shitty to, who I was an awful person to, and I would not deserve those partners now, even though I'm fairly certain I've improved as a person. Me improving as a person does not mean I deserve another person's time. The work here is not like work in the sense of you put effort in and you get a reward. There's a quote paraphrased here as plant trees whose shades that you will not live to sit under. You become a better person. You call out shitty people, not because it will benefit you now, but everyone soon. I'd like to actually piggyback off that concept real quick, because this is the same idea as parents trying to make a better world for their kid. You are sowing the seeds, ideally, for the world to be better in the next 20, 30, or 40 years. It is a gamble whether or not you will live to be in that world. But you are, in fact, gambling to make the world better so that somebody else can benefit from it. There's many other kinds of loneliness. Many of them have their own problems, but still share the same rule that you can't overcome them solo. And now we have AI companies like this bitch. We have AI companies that are trying to sell a technological solution for these problems. Can that work? Well, back in the 80s and 90s, we had BBSs and MUDs. MUDs stand for multi-user dungeons, by the way. These were just effectively giant IRC chats that people would roleplay in lieu of playing video games. We had other forms of text-based chats, the low-tech precursors to Discord, even more limited and more local. There were real people typing to each other, wearing social masks, and expressing themselves in ways that they might not show real-life friends. People experimented with gender, consent, ideas about identity, boundary, all that great stuff. Because you could just log out or block somebody. The dynamic was very different than real life. We're still exploring these notions today, a generation later. It was all very intimate in its way. You couldn't see somebody's face, only imagine it. So you could confess things you'd be ashamed to reveal in real life. You got to play pretend about yourself, be more exciting or sexier, whatever. People reacted to your mind and heart, not your age and skin tone. The thing was, there was no real proof of who you were talking to, except what people chose to share. Nobody would take an AI chatbot seriously in the 90s. We didn't have the tech, not counting gimmicks like Eliza, but today? So, what does it mean to sell a technical solution to loneliness? Communication goes two ways. I want someone to hear and accept what I share. I want to learn about someone else. You can write a chatbot that does the first, but not the second. LLMs aren't people. So, as an example, if I were to bring up ChatGPT again for giggles, let's go ahead and pull this up. Tell me your favorite movie and why. If I had to pick a favorite movie, I'd go with Everything Everywhere All at Once. So for me, in my instance of ChatGPT, this will be the favorite movie that it gives me. But if you were to ask your version of it on your phone or on your computer, if you happen to even have it at all, it's going to give you a different answer. It's going to give you something different. You know why? Because this isn't a person. It's a collection of data. It might now have a memory mode, something that it didn't have a year ago, and that memory mode might be able to effectively convince people that it's remembering the conversations it had with you over time, but it's not remembering in the classical sense. It's just data. It's just numbers. It's mimicking human speech. It's a skinwalker. And again, it's a tool. And I want to keep reiterating it's a tool, because if I don't keep reiterating it's a tool, there's going to be somebody that is going to evolve what these large language models are in their head past what they are. They're going to start putting a person there. They're going to start anthropomorphizing it. And no, you can't. It's a thing. It's a bucket. A bucket can do a lot of things, but at the end of the day, it's still a bucket. It doesn't, you're right, it doesn't remember things. It stores them. Communication goes two ways. I only get an illusion of that chatbot remembering things I've told it, but it's not actually doing that. It's not actually solving any problems for me. It's just spitting out data. I have to do all the hard computations myself still. Right now, we can't even really do the first. We can sell the illusion of doing it. If I want to talk to an entity that will say words like, I understand, or that sounds like it was difficult, we can do that now. But it doesn't mean anything. A key thing about human relationships is that they can get one or both parties to improve. Constructive criticism from someone whose opinion we value can motivate us to become better in ways that might have been hard for us to do alone. But there's no AI that can do that. To me, the biggest danger of using LLMs as companions to solve loneliness is that. It's not that they aren't real people. Imaginary friends, writing fiction, and other things, these can be helpful. It's that every LLM today will tell you, you're good enough right now, even if you aren't. So let me go back to who I was well past 10 years ago. I was an abusive, insecure partner. I'd argue I'm still insecure now, but I certainly was abusive. I didn't recognize those things. And if this same technology existed back then, the only version of events it would ever have would be what I tell it. It couldn't make any inferences. It couldn't make any informed decisions. All it could do, ever, would be to take exactly what I gave it as an input and then spit out an output. This is several levels below what even a therapist can do. Without other people critiquing who I was, I would have never become a better person. I would have never become less transphobic. I would have never become a partner that's actually worth having around, which jury's still out on that. I would have never improved, because I would have never had a reason to improve. Very few people are the villains in their own story. They don't have a reason to improve until they're presented with one. And that fucking bot is never going to present you with a reason to improve, with a reason to become a better person. It can never, and it will never. Because that's not what it's designed to do. It's designed to take in data, scrape it from the internet, and then spit shit back out. There is no large language model that possesses dignity and pride. There's no large language model that demands that you respect those things. There's no algorithm that can say, I love you, but you have to change. It can only give you the empty, I love you. It's not enough to overcome loneliness by just feeling like someone is giving you attention. We drive away loneliness by making it safer for people to try to overcome it. We make it safer to overcome it by making ourselves better, individually and collectively. And I agree with Astral. The way to make friends is to go out and fail at making friends. The way to improve as a person is to go out and get critiqued as a person. You can't just sit there and talk to a chatbot that's going to affirm everything you do. And there are going to be some outliers where somebody listened to a chatbot tell them to be better and gave them a nice step-by-step, and they actually followed it, and they actually improved. But I promise you, there's going to be even more cases of people who refused to engage in self-improvement because they fed a machine their twisted version of events. And what do you think it spat back out for them? Again, a large language model is a tool. It's a bucket. But it can never do anything more than what a bucket can do. Sure, I can make an entire fiction in my head that this bucket is my best friend. I can paint a face on it, and I can stick it in the sand, and if I'm lonely on an island, I can talk to it, and I can see myself work my way through my problems with this bucket. But I didn't give the bucket more tools than it already had for solving problems. I superimposed an idea of a problem solver onto the bucket. That's all I've done. It's still just a bucket. Carries water, carries sand, but it can't carry the weight of my emotions. I can pretend it can for a while, but I'll never make myself a better person by doing that. I'll never enjoy life more by doing that. I'll just get more sad. So this Annie thing, it kind of scares me. It kind of scares me. Not because the idea of large language models scare me. I've long made my peace with them existing. There's two realities. It's either a bubble that's going to pop at some point, or it's a tool that we're just going to have to deal with. The thing that scares me is the generation that's going to grow up with these large language models being normalized. And if those large language models are normalized for a generation that grows up with them, that's a generation that's not going to go out and seek therapy when they get abused. It's not a generation that's going to go out and learn how to make friends very well. It's a generation that's going to be sitting on their phone because their phone quite literally has the illusion of giving all of the answers to all of life's complex problems. And it feels like I'm doing the old man yells at cloud thing, but I know that I'm not. Ravi says, my friend's husband fucked off to Ohio because God spoke to him and said Cincinnati is where he should go because he has no network in Los Angeles. The fact he hadn't left the house in 4 years and was consuming nothing but Joe Rogan and Jordan Peterson while only conversing with Grok. Yeah, of course he had no fucking network in LA because he wasn't going out and getting one. I live in fucking rural Georgia. I live in the woods. I have a network here of people who I trust, of people who I like, of people who I spend every weekend with, and I go out of my way when I have spare time to spend more time with when I have the ability to, and that's not even counting my wonderful fucking girlfriend, who I am incredibly privileged to live with. You can make a network anywhere. You just have to go outside. It's not even hard. Get a gym membership. Go talk to people at the gym. I may not do that all the time when I go to the gym. It's maybe one every 3 trips or so. But like if I go there wearing my Pokemon Go wristband that catches Pokemon for me while I'm walking, I almost always get asked what that is at some point when I'm out. That starts a conversation, and it's started friendships before. Me and Saki were at the taco bar that the weird conspiracy theorist guy was at. I haven't seen him there in months, but we were at the taco bar, and Saki just started humming the Final Fantasy winning theme, because I've been playing through all the games. And the bartender just stopped, looked her directly in the eye, and just went, "Was that Final Fantasy?" Boom. Conversation. Now, anytime I go there without her, she just goes, "Hey, is your wife coming?" It's tiny things like that that only happen when you go out and talk to real fucking people. It's things like that that only happen in a world where you are going out and meeting other flesh and blood human beings. You don't get those fun experiences when you spend all of your time talking to a fucking chatbot. And that's not even to consider the fact that if you're really horny, you can't have sex with it. Axo says, when did Saki become wife? She hasn't. But if you're in rural Georgia and you go outside with a girl and you've been going out with that girl for multiple years, everybody just kind of assumes that that's your life partner. And life partner down here generally means wife or husband. Fennec says, I had a conversation with someone at the farmer's market because of a button on my bag. Yeah. Happens all the time when you go out with people. The most I'd say, if you're going to use this technology, figure out if it has any application for your job and limit it to that. It's not your therapist. It's not your friend. And we've actually found that there are actual psychological ramifications when people treat it like their friend or therapist. Large language models have told people to fucking kill themselves. I'm not even kidding. We actually have examples of this shit happening. When people, well, we'll read just so that I don't misrepresent anything in the article. As AI chatbots like OpenAI's ChatGPT have become more mainstream, a troubling phenomenon has accompanied their rise: chatbot psychosis. Chatbots are known to sometimes push inaccurate information, affirm conspiracy theories, and, in one extreme case, convince someone that they are the next religious messiah. Ravi, that sounds a whole lot like what you were talking about. There are several instances of people developing severe obsession and mental health problems as a result of talking with them. Oh, also, I've learned from my time using ChatGPT, personally, that ever since that memory feature was integrated into it, it will affirm anything you throw at it, and it will just make shit up. So because I talk about Magic the Gathering and politics, if I'm using it to make tags for a video or whatever, it takes that information and it makes assumptions about what my job is, insofar as it can make assumptions. So anything that I talk about, if I use the bot to get anything, it will always give a left-wing spin to it, which tells me that if a right-winger is utilizing it, they're going to get a right-wing spin to whatever they see, irrespective of if the results from that spin are actually fucking accurate. Because large language models have no way to determine if something is accurate. How is this happening? The correspondence with generative AI chatbots such as ChatGPT is so realistic that one easily gets the impression that there's a real person on the other end, said Soren Ostergaard at the Schizophrenia Bulletin. Chatbots have tended to be sycophantic, agreeing with and flattering users. They also could hallucinate, generating ideas that weren't true but sounded plausible. Okay, so this one I actually have a direct example of from this morning. So I didn't realize that these LLMs have a surprise me button now. Now, as somebody who grew up in the early days of Google, where surprise me or I'm feeling lucky was a button we had there, I thought that would be kind of novel. So, sure, let's go ahead and see what happens here. Check out this hallucination. Here's a weird, timely, and potentially react-worthy bit of internet lore. Trump's AI Obama rant wasn't even the weirdest part of that week. Plot twist, while Trump was busy claiming Obama should be arrested over Epstein using an AI voice, a real right-wing YouTuber was caught selling anti-vax holy water blessed by AI Jesus, and people actively bought it. Now that sounds plausible. That sounds very, very plausible in the weird world we live in. You know what's funny? I did a little bit of research. No such video exists. Nothing of this sort exists. There's nothing in any news article. There's nothing on the internet. There's nothing on TikTok. Nothing on YouTube. Not even on fucking Rumble. There's nothing. There is no world where this actually happened. Ali Hallie says, how would that be a bigger story even if it were true, though? It wouldn't be. That's the thing. It wouldn't be a bigger story even if it were true. Because one guy doing the gamer girl bathwater thing with an AI Jesus thing is not a huge story. Now, it might be funny. It might be hilarious to react to. But it wouldn't be bigger than Trump trying to say that a former president needed to get arrested. It would not be. So, why are we here? Why are we in this weird-ass timeline where an active hallucination can just be thrown by a large language model, and there are still people who will follow these things to the ends of the fucking earth? This was one example I was able to pull up basically out of nowhere. If it's happening with me, with the tiny bit that I interact with this fucking software, guess what? Somebody who's relying on this for everything, that person is going to get a bajillion of these hallucinations. Kat says, forgive my ignorance here. Is it not illegal for a sitting president to falsely accuse a former president? So, here's the fun thing. Whether it is or not doesn't matter to Trump. Trump and Vance have been taking the Andrew Jackson approach to things, where they get to go, the courts have made their decision, now it is up to them to try to enforce it. They think that they're invincible. They think that nothing can happen to them. They're going to continue to do this shit constantly. SCOTUS, when the president does it, it's not illegal. Basically. The fact that a term like AI psychosis can exist is emblematic of how far off the deep end we as human beings seem to be drifting. And it's scary. It's honestly terrifying. If you've got a... Here, I want to have a bit of actionable stuff at the end of every video, if I can help it. And there is a bit of actionable stuff you can do here. If you've got a friend who's saying, I asked Grok, I asked ChatGPT, if they're starting to anthropomorphize the large language model, help them out. Help them step away from the damn thing. They've started seeing this thing as a person. And that never, ever, ever does anybody any good. It increases the propensity of the loneliness epidemic. It causes people to drift further and further away from one another and instead rely literally on robots. And it strips us of the things that make us human. And we're not even talking about concepts like using machine learning to try to generate pictures. Ripping ourselves of one of the most human things we possibly could experience. Robbie says, I'm pushing back against my ed tech department's hard push for AI/LLM use. A good question for them is always going to be, what do we gain from it? What does it do that can't be solved via other means? This is a niche, hyper niche tool that is being wielded like a multi-tool. It doesn't do us any good to try to wield it like a multi-tool. It doesn't help us. It only hurts us because it's not supposed to be used for everything that everybody seems to believe that these chatbots can do. It's not a therapist. It's not a mathematician. It's not a one-stop shop to solve all your problems. It's a bucket. It has the limited use cases of a bucket. Printer says, in 2019, I made friends with a family friend while I went along on a family trip. Since then, I've been trying. It's been a huge struggle to deal with my anxiety. Even listening to lives is what helped me the most. Getting therapy is right up there, too. Started out with just watching 15 minutes and then leaving if I felt stressed. It's gotten better with me. I just got back from RV camping with that family friend. I flew out solo. Other friends of them were there as well, and I would hang out with their coworkers on the days where she couldn't work remotely. It's the most social I've been by choice in a decade. You know what? That's honestly something to be proud of. That is something to be very proud of. Ravi says, they said it saves teachers time, but how, though? It doesn't. It doesn't actually do research. All it does is spit out data, and then you have to analyze that data and see if that data is correct. Like, at the most, you can use it to point you in a general direction, and then you've still got to do all the same legwork you had to do before. It's not actually making your time any easier. Especially when, again, everybody has access to this tech in their pocket if they desperately feel like they need it. Why should it be pushed by an organization when you can just open up your fucking pocket? Go talk with your friends. Go make friends. Go outside. Go touch grass. I'm honestly starting to feel like I should start doing some of these streams from the fucking gym when I'm there. If you guys want 30 minutes to an hour of me sweating and running on a treadmill talking about going outside. Anyway. People are people. Large language models are buckets. Don't fucking confuse the two. Hey, thanks for making it to the end of the video. I really could not do any of this without all of you. Those of you watching, and especially those of you who support me on Patreon. I wanted to go ahead and take a minute to thank all of you who do that, because with YouTube being what it is these days, I really cannot do this full-time without the support from each and every one of you. Those people would be Red Joker, Purple Poundini, Jemshin, Britzkrieg, Jupe the Malignant, Michael, Ravalern, Mabbity Babbity, Astral Frontier, Tales of Atonement, Nixie Chan, Kiri Artemis, Limor Pinku, Love Bunny Games, Victorian Alchemist, I'm not saying the last part of that, and you know that, Aurora, Leela Ururaka, Arcton Arclacier, Kiratorian, Dren Hadamata, Jordan M, John L, Lord Bleck, Smiling Game Master, and Fireshard. Thank you so very much. But since you're here, why not go ahead and try watching another one? There should be one that's on the screen right now. And if you are a patron of mine, I wanted to go ahead and thank you again for all of your support. There is still a video you could press, though, if you'd like. I would appreciate it just a little bit.